and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about climate myths. I have selected 5 climate myths that we are going to talk about and that I am going to debunk for you today. So in no particular order, let's get started.
Myth number 1.
Scientists don't agree on climate change or global warming. This is a big myth we often hear. There actually is quite an agreement on climate change and global warming. Of course, there are scientists that do not agree, but there is an overwhelming amount who do. In a study looking at papers from 1991 to 2011, they looked at over 4,000 papers that looked at global warming, climate change, kind of that general idea. Out of all those papers, only 83 or 2% of them rejected the idea that people influence climate. In contrast, 3,894 of those papers, or 97% of them, found clear evidence linking human activity and what people do to climate change and global warming. That last missing percent are papers that did not specify a stance. So basically, yes, scientists do agree, especially in recent years after all the studies that have been going on in the past 30 years or so. Scientists have seen that we influence the way climate changes, and that isn't going to change anytime soon.
Myth number 2.
Global warming is natural. Things like solar flares cause them. So if we think of it this way, we should actually be in a global cooling, but we're not. The solar activity is actually at a minimum, but we're still seeing record warm temperatures. Solar activity, of course, has an influence on climate, but it has an influence on natural climate change. It is very evident that what we are experiencing is a lot more rapid and is a lot more severe than the natural climate cycles we have seen in the past. Once again, indicating that this is not just natural from solar activity. This is something we are doing to our planet. This graph here shows global temperature compared to solar activity. And as you can see, they're spreading, going in opposite directions. Solar activity is going down and is not as strong in recent decades. However, temperatures are still going up, indicating that right now, solar flares are not what's causing these changes.
Myth number 3.
We just experienced record low temperatures. That means global warming isn't real. This is one of the biggest issues when we talk about climate. There is a very big difference between climate and weather. I'll link below my video about climate versus weather. It kind of explains the difference between the two. And this is exactly that. People confusing weather with climate. You can have days that are cold. You can also have days that are very warm. When we're talking about climate, we're looking at overall trends. We aren't looking locally. We aren't even sometimes looking just regionally. A lot of the time, we are looking at a global scale and trying to understand the global trend. And when we look at the global trend, there's a clear increase. There's a lot more warm record temperatures than there are cold record temperatures. For example, once we start averaging things out, looking just last year at 2018, it was the 4th warmest year on record. If we look at the 10 hottest years on record, all of them have occurred in the past 20 years. Ultimately, what this means is it is still possible to see a record cold day for a community, or even a region, or even a country. That doesn't mean global warming isn't real, because then when we consider the rest of the year or the rest of the world, they could still be experiencing record heat, which is exactly what we saw this past winter. When we were having record cold temperatures in the United States, Australia was experiencing record heat, and a lot of other places across the globe also were experiencing record heat or still just very warm temperatures, despite the United States being frozen. What this comes down to is, yeah, we can still have low temperatures. That doesn't mean global warming isn't a problem.
Myth number 4.
How are we even supposed to adapt to climate change? People don't do stuff with future payoff. This myth is a little different from the other ones, but I still think it's an important idea. A lot of people argue that people resist change because we don't plan for the future, but this is not true. Why do we brush our teeth every day? Why do we plant trees? Why do we get life insurance? Because we're planning for the future. Brushing your teeth right now isn't going to change your teeth magically overnight, but if you're brushing your teeth every single day, you're going to see an improvement in your overall mouth health. If you were to get life insurance today, chances are you aren't going to die tomorrow. You get it so in the future it will benefit your family. Same with trees. Trees take a long time to grow. Why do we plant them if they take a long time? It's because eventually we will benefit from them when they are fully grown. The fact of the matter is we do plan for the future, and we're actually very good at planning for the future. And as I've shown you, it's really easy to plan for the future. You plant a tree, it'll grow. You take a little bit of care of it, maybe water it a bit, make sure it gets sun, don't let it get infections from bugs or whatever. It's going to grow into a beautiful tree, and it doesn't take that much extra energy to do. Same with brushing your teeth every day. Do it every morning, do it every night. It takes 2 minutes extra in your day to do it, and it's super simple and it benefits you a lot. Working towards a better future with climate change works in a similar way. We make small changes, whether that be no longer using grocery bags and instead using reusable ones, or building a compost bucket, or even as simple as just voting for someone who believes in climate change policy and legislation. That's super easy. Just go to your polling office, vote for the right person, and this could have a huge change on how we treat the
Myth
environment.
number 5.
How can we believe in climate change when models are so uncertain? So, if you did not know, my thesis, which I recently wrote, is about climate change impacts on extreme precipitation. So, I'm pretty familiar with climate models, and a huge part of my thesis was looking at how well they are doing. The fact of the matter is, model uncertainty has gone down a lot. And we have a much better understanding of where uncertainties come from and how to correct. With that said, of course, there are still problems. There's still uncertainty. We can't be 100% sure because predicting the future is hard. However, our confidence is very high. And to help you understand why we can be more certain about what models are showing, I want to tell you about a very important researcher named John Wesley Powell. Back in the 1800s, he explored the West as well as watersheds and just was a huge man when it came to understanding weather, climate, watershed flooding, all of this in the western United States. Back in the 1870s, he went to Congress and warned them that if they did not do something about farming practices, it would end badly. He saw that climate worked naturally in cycles, however, that humans would have an impact on that cycle if something wasn't done. He was pretty much laughed out of Congress after that. They said, no, you can't stop our progress. We have to keep moving west. And not even 100 years later, what happened in the West? The Dust Bowl. So more than 50 years before the Dust Bowl occurred, he said that this would happen, that drought would plague the West, causing farming and the agricultural system throughout the Great Plains to collapse. This is exactly what happened, and because they didn't listen to him, they did not prepare. This is basically what is happening again. We are seeing these changes. We have computers and models to help shape what we are seeing. All he had was riding a rowboat down the Colorado River in the West. And with that, he was able to determine the climate and what would happen to it in the West. Now we have fancy computers, we have models, we have so many people working on this, trying to better understand it. Yes, there's still uncertainty. There will always be uncertainty. There is no way we will be able to get rid of uncertainty. But if in the 1870s, a geologist can predict the Dust Bowl more than 50 years before it occurs, then I think we can accurately say that the climate is going to continue to change. That the climate is going to change because of anthropogenic forcings. We influence climate, we influence global warming, we have an impact. So instead of letting that impact be a negative one, let's make it be a positive one. I really hope Understanding these myths not only helps you better understand climate and climate change, but also helps you talk about it. If you hear people talk about these myths, then hopefully now you have a response. You can say, well, that's not quite accurate, and here's why. Maybe even just simply show them this video so they can understand. If you have any other myths you'd like me to talk about in the future, or if you have any other questions you would like answered, leave them down in the comments below, and I'll try to get to them all if I can. There's a lot of myths about climate and climate change out there that I can't shove all into one video, but these are just 5 I wanted to focus on today. If you have more, just let me know, and I'll keep them in mind. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe down below and join the journey to living more sustainably. If you'd like to keep up with my own journey to living more sustainably, you can also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thank you again, guys, for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video and you learned a lot from it. I'll see you guys